Alright everyone, hello and welcome to episode 80 of our Blackburn Rovers Football Manager 2017 save. Now it's been quite some time, probably not in terms of you, because there's an episode before this one that I haven't uploaded, that'll get uploaded, which will probably mean that this episode will get uploaded like 2 days later, so there won't be that much of a gap. But in terms of me, at this current point in time, I released my last episode 2 weeks ago, and that was because last week we, of course, released the Zinedine Zidane tactical analysis video. But we are back and ready to rumble with Blackburn Rovers. I've not played this save in a while. I've actually just played a few games now. And to cut a long story short, I'm not too pleased. So, obviously, the last episode you guys saw will have been our 1-0 win against Man United. Gabby goal, scoring against United twice, scoring against Chelsea, looked like we had our gem. Unfortunately, them goals have dried up. We drew 0-0 away at Sunderland. Thomas Callas getting sent off in the 89th minute, completely dominated the game, threw as many men forward as we could, and we had chances to certainly win the game. Andre Gray certainly late on, but it just didn't fall for us. We then kind of struggled to overcome what's an average Wolves side, but you know what I've always said since day one, you know you're really on the verge of becoming something special when you still somehow manage to win games where you don't necessarily perform too great. Can't say that for the Sunderland game. It was away from home, but we just about edged it at home. I've been trying to build up a winning streak and build up morale, especially after the transfer window, which we'll look at in a second, and just really try and go on a run of some decent results to build up some momentum. And for me on this game, if you want to build momentum, irregardless of how well you're playing on Football Manager, the one team you don't ever want to face is Watford, because they have Troy Deeney up front, and I don't care what anyone says, Troy Deeney is the best striker on this game. And, you know, to add insult to injury, we lose 3-2. A Will Hughes header. Will Hughes header. Like, out of all the players, out of all the massive players Watford have, Will Hughes is probably the last player I'd expect to win a header from a free kick and get the winning goal, but that's what happened, and we lost 3-2. It's not really surprising that we lost against Watford, because people that have been watching since episode 1 will know that they're one of my bogey teams, along with Troy Deeney. So after the match, me and the press had a word, and as you can probably tell, I wasn't exactly too pleased. So ESPN were like, Troy Deeney's always had a good record against you. Why is that? And I was like, because he's the most fucking OP striker on the game, and stormed out the press conference. That's how frustrated I was at the time. Probably wouldn't be as frustrated if we'd actually beat Sunderland, but it's these games here which really will come to bite us in the ass. Transfer-wise, let's talk about our team. So we're going through a terrible state right now. PSG came in on deadline day with a 20 million quid for Volkvist, but obviously we wanted to bring in a centre-back, and we didn't. Well, we wanted to buy a centre-back who is Diego Llorente from PSG, but he went to Man City instead for less money. So that was when I kind of bit the bullet and said, right, we brought in Volkvist to play right-back, but we also bought Varjek, or our board also bought Varjek, so Varjek was always going to be our right-back going forward into the future. So let's try Volkvist at centre-back, along with Callas, who's very athletic as well, and play with a higher line. We did exactly that. He's been playing well, and now PSG came in and completely ruined his morale, so that's going to be something I have to deal with. He doesn't want to sign a new contract, he just wants to leave. So I don't know how that's going to affect us going forward, but I've played enough Football Manager over the years to know that it's probably going to affect us. When players' morale is crap, you start seeing them make mistakes and so on. And, you know, it could be why he lost his header to Will Bloody Hughes. Next up, Douglas is still in this really weird state where he came to me, obviously, in pre-season saying he wants a new contract, otherwise he wants to leave. I offer him a new contract, pleased with everything, yet for some reason wanted to still leave the club and still wants a new deal. The game's basically bugged out. I tried to sell him. We were on the verge of signing Matic, but of course you look at our finances, in terms of wages, in terms of FFP, we are spending over the FFP limit because we have given a lot of players contract increases. And the thing is, it was either for me signing Matic or increasing Douglas's contract. So I increased Douglas's contract, but because he's now bugged out, it left me in a state where, as much as I wanted Matic, despite it being a 33-year-old Matic, it just wasn't worth it in the end. And unfortunately, this guy's still bugged. So I tried to sell him. No one wanted him at 115k a week and 30-odd million, which is really slap bang his value. So we're stuck with him. I'm stuck trying to keep him happy, basically. Every time he asks for a new contract, I'm just basically going to apologise or say to him you can leave at the end of the season to just try and keep him happy because we need him this season as part of our squad. Dumic and Varela have not been able to be registered for the Champions League. In terms of the Champions League, as you can probably see, we're up against Bayern Munich. So what does our group look like? We got drawn into Group E, and in Group E we've got Bayern and Monaco. Now Krasnodar, I think we played them before in the Europa League, obviously when we won that a few years ago, but it's going to be tough. Last year we had Real Madrid and Roma in our group, so to be fair, I still think it's just going to be the same thing. Bayern are basically the equivalent of Real Madrid. You could say we're lucky as well because they're currently 18th in the Bundesliga, bottom of the Bundesliga somehow, but I doubt that's going to really last. But if we can grab a win against them, if their morale is really, really poor right now, which it is, who knows what might happen against a team like that. And going into this game, they've lost 3-0 to FC Köln. So, that's something we got to use to our advantage. Injuries have been a bit on and off. Demirbay, finally back from injury. Playing against Watford has to come off at the halfway mark, and I think he is probably going to end up leaving in January. It just seems that on 70k a week, as much as I love him as a player, he's just far too injury prone. Unfortunately for us, we did bring in a lot of youngsters in terms of players that could play in the middle of the park. Varjek is out for a few weeks with a hernia, and because Varela wasn't registered for the Champions League, it leaves me having to play Volkvist at right back. For some reason, Volkvist's condition is really poor. So basically, I'm going into this game with no expectations right now. We're going to play Bayern. We're playing Ancelotti's men. We've got to hope for the best. And to be fair, a win would be amazing for us, because if we can go into this next few run of games with at least some momentum, with some positive morale, it'll probably help us get through the fact that we have the odd player here and there that want to leave the club. Okay, hello everyone, welcome to Ewood Park. It's a Champions League game. So, on that note, let's change this around. I don't normally show this, but I haven't done this save in a while, and I've completely cocked that up. So, we're going to have to come back out of it again. Jesus Christ, that's why I don't normally do it. So, Bayern Munich, obviously we are in the future. Lewandowski isn't as fast as he once upon a time was. Unfortunately for us though, Koeman is 17 acceleration, 19 pace, and to be fair, if I wanted him up against either of my two fullbacks, it would have been Augustinsson, not Volkvist, on his 70 whatever condition. So that's why Volkvist is basically going to be turned into a DFB. He's just been told to stay back, not really bothered with him. But to get that balance right, Augustinsson has been turned into a fullback, so he does kind of have a bit more of a license to roam forwards. Douglas plays in front of the back four with Romeu, of course, as a makeshift centre-back. Morales comes in for his first competitive start, or definitely first Champions League start. One of the regens, wonder kid, of course, that we brought in. I do want to start playing him a little bit more. I feel like sometimes I'm a bit reluctant in terms of playing these youngsters. I bring them in, I know they're phenomenal, but I just don't play them because I'm stupid. So might as well give him a go. Barbosa starts off on the bench simply because I think his better performances have been coming off the bench and using his pace. Nano had a very good game against Watford, despite, of course, the final score. Piaka on the left, Nyang on the right. Stuck in the middle, Nano, so nothing new there. In terms of what we're going to look to exploit in terms of Bayern Munich, we're going to look to play our own game, but I am aware that they're, in my opinion at least, their kind of middle of the park is quite stacked. We've got Renato Sanchez, who's an absolute beast, but Vidal isn't as young as he used to be, but Kimmich is pretty good physically as well. But if there's one thing that I think they lack that Sanchez complements them with, is that physicality, that strength, and so on. So that could be, maybe we could look to go a little bit more direct, play with an attacking midfielder come the second half, someone who's kind of big, someone can hold the ball up. A Targaman would be really useful against players like this. They've got Hummels and Sule at the back. Hummels 9 acceleration, Sule a little bit better, but as we know, Sule is a bit of a wonder kid in terms of how the game currently starts. So, it's kind of questionable whether or not that would work. And I feel like I'm going on a bit of a rant right now. Thomas Muller, 12 acceleration, 15 pace, still very good for a 32-year-old. But it doesn't really worry me too much right now, which is why I've given Augustinsson that kind of license to go forward. And I think Romeo and Callas should be physically good enough to deal with Lewandowski as long as, we can keep the ball and play our own game. There's only so much you can do against a team like Bayern Munich. They're 18th in the Bundesliga right now, slap bang bottom of the Bundesliga. So hopefully we're going to come into this and they're in poor form. And if we can get the first goal and really put them on the back foot, hopefully things will look good going forwards. In terms of our team instructions, we're going to stay on the counter. Doesn't really mean on the counter, obviously. It's more of a risk barometer. But other than that, we've not really changed anything to do with our instructions. So without further ado, let's jump in and, as always, see what happens. Okie dokie. So it's going to be interesting to see how Morales does. Obviously, Volkvist and Douglas both playing. Both two of the sulkers really in the side. Badalovic looks like a very good player. He's actually a regen. Very pacey, really good technically as well. But let's see, because we got the ball now. Niang threads the ball through to Piaka, who fires it home. I said we needed to score nice and early. And commentator says it was a lovely strike by Marco Piaka. And when you give Piaka room to shoot, that's exactly what he gives you. Niang and Piaka, obviously, they've been playing together for quite a while now. Real nice link-up play between all of the front three. And really happy to see us go 1-0 up. But it's important. Oh, for God's sake. I'm going to say it's important that we don't get complacent and Nano gets injured. So on that note, it's kind of like, do I bring on Gabigol or do I bring on Andre? And I think it is going to have to be Gabigol at this current moment in time. Andre's not actually played that much this season, but when he has, he's not exactly impressed. Let's bear in mind, guys, that yes, Andre has been a really important player for me over the years, but he is now 30 years old. We now have players like Piaka, players like Barbosa, so don't be surprised if Andre slowly starts to disappear or maybe even gets sold in the summer. So generally speaking, other than Volkvist looking extremely knackered, possession-wise, we're keeping most of the ball. Bayern haven't had a single highlight, and it looks like we're going in at half-time with a comfortable 1-0 lead. But of course, this is Bayern Munich. Anything could change. It wouldn't surprise me if Ancelotti went 2 up front either. So we are going to have to keep an eye on that. And one thing I've actually been contemplating recently is enabling the opposition formation. Now, this is something that I normally use a lot when testing tactics out and stuff, because people like you guys that will know how I work and stuff, I put a lot of reliance on man marking. And the issue when you man mark is that no one warns you when the opposition changes their formation, which can completely ruin your own shape because your players will keep man marking players. So if I've told my wide midfielders or whatever to man mark these two and then they suddenly change to a narrow formation, my wide players will get dragged into the middle of the park, which completely ruins our own shape. So I don't know, would that be too jarring for you guys? Let me know in the comments below, because it could be something that well, it's definitely something I think is quite useful. The issue now is that Volkvist really has to come off, and I've got no idea who the hell is going to come on at right back, or do we go to a back three? I feel like we shouldn't really go to a back three because the fullbacks are quite an important part to our game. I think that'll shoot up to around 70 after he's obviously had his half-time rest, and we'll worry about it come around the 55th minute. But chances are, Callas will basically get drawn out to the right-hand side. We'll probably drop Douglas back to be a centre-back. Not ideal, I know, but you got to do what you got to do. And we could then maybe see Nuno Sousa coming on in the defensive DLP position. I think I forgot to do my team talk. I can't remember if I forgot to do my team talk or not. I think I got drawn so much into talking about that. Oh, that's not great. Forgetting to do your team talk against Bayern Munich. Honestly, forgetting to do your halftime team talk on this game, in my opinion, makes such a difference. It's like your players think that you've completely neglected them. It's like, oh, I don't want to play for a manager that doesn't care for me. Bit of a poor ball there from Niang. I think he was expecting Gabigol to kind of be a bit more forward rather than the deep position he was in. I'm not quite sure what's going on now. Elenya, I do want to double check this man marking, which I didn't do at half time. But some nice possession play coming out from Bayern. This is probably the first proper highlight we're going to see from them. Well, Volkvist completely missing the tackle there. It's Oh, no. Good save from Chesney. I'm not quite sure who that was when I said, oh, no, but was that Thomas Callas? Yeah, Callas should have done a lot better trying to clear the ball there. But let's see what happens now. It was a clear-cut chance for Bayern, but a real good save from Chesney. Now we have a chance to counter-attack, but Alenya can't hold on to the ball. Unfortunate, but here we go. 55. There we go. 60% now on Volkvist. Callas, as we saw, is not exactly looking very confident playing that central role. Ideally, we need someone good in the air. Fact of the matter is, we don't have anyone who is good in the air. So it's going to be Douglas that is basically going to have to drop to centre-back. We're playing with two defensive midfielders / centre midfielders at centre-back right now. So if we don't concede for the remainder of the second half, it will be a Christmas miracle. It's nowhere near Christmas. I don't know why I said Christmas miracle, but whatever. So Pedro Morales, do we maybe want to put him as our defensive midfielder? I don't think so. I think, you know what? I think I'm going to give... Yeah. I'm making a lot of funny noises right now. Do I put my trust in Nigel? But he's on 84%, you see. And he's not exactly phenomenal in the air. It's going to be Nuno Sousa, who's going to come on as that deep line playmaker. Ideally, I want someone who will solidify things for us up defensively. But the truth is, we just don't have that player available to us at the moment. So, Niang. Oh, that was a really good attempt of a pass. Please don't lose the ball. Finds Morales. As you can see, our fullbacks are very conservative right now. Because of Bayern's formation, we can't afford to have them really venture forward too much. It leaves far too much space for him. Morales to Niang. And Niang has got to at least hit the target from there. That's our first clear-cut chance of the game. That was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. But we are approaching the 68th minute. And still, no formation change, which is kind of surprising from Ancelotti. Piak is a little bit tired, but Piak is not really that kind of player you want to take off. But what I am going to do is actually sub on Matthias Kunz, right-only footed. He'll go on that right-hand side, but what he'll offer us is a lot of pace up front on that right-hand side where Niang, obviously, of course, is playing. And up against the tied Bayern Munich defence, I think that'll work well in our favour. So, counter-attack. We're just going to drop our tempo a little bit, tell the lads to be a little bit more disciplined and just go to shorter passing and leave it at that. Should be self-explanatory, really, why we're looking to do that. Just try and hold on to the ball. I'm quite impressed with the 56% possession we've accumulated so far today. I'm not too impressed with this victory because, as we know, Bayern are in kind of poor form. But honestly, guys, like starting off the first half with a centre midfielder playing centre-back, and then for almost the entire second half playing with two central midfielders at centre-back, I think we've got to be happy with this victory, especially in terms of the Champions League group, because these 3 points could end up being really important going in to the final few games of this group. So, I may have forgot my team talk at half-time. I'm definitely not going to forget my team talk this time round. Good win, boys. Well done. Buzzing with that. Marco Piacca once again delivering the goods. 26 years of age, and didn't really see that much of an impact, to be fair, from Kunz, as I kind of wanted. But, you know, we had a rough idea of how Bayern were going to play. We had a rough idea of what we wanted to look out for. Hopefully, Nano's injury doesn't look too bad, which we'll find out now. He's out for 2 to 3 months. Okay, so we're going to send him to a specialist. I guess, you know, that leaves room for Andre to try and improve as backup to Gabby Goal, who really needs to start finding the back of the net again. And I guess we're going to leave it at that. So, after what was a poor performance, well, actually, it was an okay performance. What was a poor final result against Watford, as I think I'm starting to feel a little bit better now after that 1-0 win against Bayern. We have Crystal Palace coming up and then Spurs. So what I'm kind of contemplating right now, I am actually thinking, because Spurs are actually top of the league. Well, they were top of the league. They've got Joachim Löw as their manager now, interestingly. They are looking as one of the favourites to win the Premier League. The next episode will be a double episode. Spurs away, Monaco away. Very, very difficult games, but they're the most exciting episodes, I think. So, if you enjoyed this video, as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're almost at the promised land of 1,000 subscribers. I said I wanted 1,000 subscribers before we reach the end of this season, and to be fair, we're still in September. So, if we stay, you know, on this kind of like growth level, that would be awesome. But as always, thanks for watching.